Hey there guys, how we doing? Welcome back to AFC Game by Game. This is my review of Arsenal 1, Huddersfield 0. Hardly a classic, it has to be said. It was quite a bottom of the barrel sort of game, especially in those last stages. It was hardly a classic, as I say. Arsenal really did struggle throughout the course of this match, and I think that, I don't want to say it has to be forgiven, but given the games we've had in the past couple of weeks, Spurs at home where we gave absolutely everything, the game against United, we've travelled up to Manchester in midweek, and we've come back today to play Huddersfield, all in the space of 6 days. The most important thing was getting 3 points, and that's exactly what we've done today. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't pretty, it wasn't the performance I think a lot of Arsenal fans were expecting. We didn't win this game 4-5-0, as I think a lot of Arsenal fans were anticipating, and I'll include myself in that. I was really hoping that we'd have the better of Huddersfield in this game, which, you know, to an extent we have done, but I was hoping it would be a more convincing performance. If I look at any game at the start of the season, Huddersfield at home is a fixture where I expect us to really have the rub of the green. But Huddersfield, to their credit, I think the first thing to say is they did do well in this game. They defended resolutely, and I think a lot of fans are against the idea that when teams come to the Emirates, especially lower league sides, and they put 10 men behind the ball, of course we're going to get frustrated, and it's not an attractive style of football to play. But if you're Huddersfield, if you're Cardiff, if you're Fulham, then of course you're going to come to a place like the Emirates, the Etihad, Stamford Bridge, and you're going to put a lot of men behind the ball, defend and play on the counter. And I think Huddersfield, to their credit, did that very well today. They didn't have many opportunities, they had a few half chances, but in terms of defending, they made it very difficult for us. They frustrated us, they played every trick in the book, they had a lot of players go down with injuries. It was a really scrappy game, I believe we had 3 players booked for simulation. I've got to say I haven't seen every single replay, so I'm not too sure whether those bookings are accurate or not, but the only one I can comment on is the Guendouzi one, which kind of happened right in front of me in the North Bank, and it looked like he was touched. I don't want, as I said, I don't want to comment on it too much in case I've got a totally different perspective to what the cameras had, but it looked like he went down under a challenge. But either way, that aside, we come out of this game with 3 points, which is the most important thing. It was dogged. It was a real scrappy and tough game for us to come through. But it's these sort of fixtures which mean the most. These sort of results that mean the most. And given the other results that have come out in the Premier League today, Spurs winning, Chelsea winning, it was vital that we won this game today. If we hadn't won, then we'd have found ourselves even further down in the pecking order, and we've now find ourselves in a very healthy position, courtesy of this result, which, as I say, wasn't easy to come by. First thing to note is Emery seemed to play a 3-5-2 formation. I was really surprised to see him continue with the back 3, given that Rob Holding was out. We saw Lichtsteiner come in at right centre back, which meant Socrates switched over to left centre half. Mustafi played as the centre half, and I thought he had an okay game today. He went off later with a hamstring injury, which I think, has to be said, was coming following how he sort of hobbled off in that game against Man United in midweek. And Lichtsteiner, I thought, to his credit, did really well in that right centre back role. I don't think he's a long-term solution there, but I thought he did very well for the time that he was on the pitches in that first 45 minutes, which was also the only time that he was on the pitch as well, because we made those half-time substitutions. Socrates, I thought, had a brilliant game as well today. Our first clean sheet in God knows how long as well, which will do the defence a world of good, I would hope anyway. But it was really the midfield where I was surprised. I was surprised to see us go with such a defensive midfield at home. We know that Guendouzi, Torreira, etc. They've got qualities going forward, but it seemed to be there was a lack of creativity in there. We had a midfield 3 of Guendouzi, Torreira, and Xhaka, and I think they're 3 very talented, very gifted midfielders, but they're players that want to pass it into someone like a Mesut Ozil, like a Mkhitaryan, like an Iwobi. There's not. And with those 3 together, they just didn't really have that person to go forward into in this instance. Aubameyang and Lacazette playing as the front 2, it was really exciting. And I think this 3-5-2 formation, I do think it's a work in progress, and it's something that could work, but if you take out one of those 3 midfielders and replace it with someone like Mesut Ozil or Mkhitaryan, I think you'll see a different team. The game plan seemed to be Xhaka sit back, Torreira and Guendouzi press on that a little bit more, but going out into that second half, I was surprised to see that Lacazette came off. Wasn't overly surprised to see Lichtsteiner come off. We reverted to the back 4, we saw Iwobi and Mkhitaryan come on, and I don't think they changed the game at all, to be honest. They seemed to struggle ever so slightly. We started the game with a bit more intensity, with about 10% more intensity. Mkhitaryan, I thought, worked very hard in this game, as he always does. Iwobi really did struggle for the 45 minutes he was on the pitch. I think couldn't really seem to string a pass together. There was one moment where he played the ball through to Kolasinac, but apart from that, I don't really have any moments of his that's really spring to my mind. I thought he really did struggle in that 45 minutes that he was on the pitch. But as I say, we reverted to the back four. We saw Monreal come on in that second half when Mustafi went off injured. And of course, that is a worry with Socrates and Mustafi absent for that game against Southampton. And although they've been dreadful this season, going away to St Mary's is a really difficult game for us, and I don't want to get into the preview of that just yet, but that is a really difficult game away, and with no Mustafi, no Socrates, our defence is bad enough as it is. I do worry going into that game, so it's a game where we're going to have to call someone like Koscielny back into action. We're potentially looking at a Koscielny and Monreal centre-half partnership, which is going to be interesting. Going to be interesting to say the very least. But going out into the second half in today's game, we still, didn't create that many chances. We went to more of a 4-3-3 with Jaka Torreira and Guendouzi playing as a free midfield. Guendouzi was absolutely everywhere, especially on that left-hand side of the pitch. Really didn't have a distinct role, but seemed to really make a menace of himself throughout the course of that second half. Kolasinac didn't look as dangerous as he did in the game against Southampton, maybe a bit of fatigue coming in, but we thankfully did get that goal through Lucas Torreira. Brilliant hold-up play from Aubameyang first and foremost to bring the ball down, to keep it under control, and then to play it into Torreira, who didn't have the audacity to head it, but to instead go for the overhead kick, which came off absolutely spectacularly to make it 1-0, and celebrated it in a similar fashion to the way he celebrated that goal against Spurs last weekend. Really pleased to see him get on the score sheet, because he has been our player of the season so far. Brilliant to see him doing so well, being such a force in this Arsenal midfield, and just a shame we couldn't have added a few more goals really, because Huddersfield really opened up after that. Torreira, Mkhitaryan, Aubameyang all bombing forwards, and we had opportunities to make it 2-3-0, but unfortunately we couldn't take those opportunities, and we come out with a 1-0 result to the Arsenal, which I'm perfectly happy with. Perfectly happy with. As I say, at the start of this video I mentioned that the most important thing was getting the 3 points. That's exactly what we've done today. And we've got a couple of games now coming up against Karabag and then Southampton away. And in that game in midweek in the Europa League, we've already won the Group. I'd be having no hesitations about playing a under-21 side. Charlie Gilmore, Zek Medley, these kind of players. Saka, I'd like to see a bit more of him. If we go into that game against Southampton with a refreshed and a replenished squad, then that's going to stand us in really good stead, especially heading into games against the likes of Burnley, Brighton, etc. that we've got coming up. And then we've got that big fixture at the end of December against Liverpool. So it's important that in these games where they are winnable, we've got to be picking up maximum points, because teams like Chelsea, teams like Spurs, they don't seem to be showing any signs of letting up at the minute. So we've really got to keep winning whilst those teams keep winning if we are going to stand a chance of getting in the top 4 this season. But it's really tight up there, and I'm feeling really positive about how things are going at Arsenal at the minute. As every other Arsenal fan should be. It's really, we've really got something at Arsenal that we can believe in, and it wasn't a pretty victory today, but it's the type of victory that I don't think we'd have got last season. This game really reminded me of the 0-0 against Middlesbrough a couple of seasons ago. But the important thing is we've come out of this game with 3 points, which I don't think we would have done last season. But I don't know, guys. I'm going to wrap it up there. Please do drop a like on this video if you have enjoyed it. Subscribe to AFC Game by Game if you are new to the channel. And as always, I'll be seeing you very soon. See you later, guys.